Hey guys, welcome back. My name's Josh
And I'm Mitch.
and we're talking offside. Thank you for tuning in once again. Today we have another topic that we're going to talk about, and that topic is how good is Mikel Arteta?
Is that what we're talking about today?
Well, we've just covered is Conte the right man for Spurs, so it's only fair that we turn to me this time and we say how good is this Arteta revolution? And to start us off, we're going to go outside rather than inside, and I want to get your perspective on it, and then I'm going to come back afterwards.
So, as a Spurs supporter, what's my opinion on the Arsenal revolution? Well, I would say begrudging respect, to be honest with you. So, as you know, being Australian, we have a slightly different perspective, I suppose, on the Premier League as a whole and on the London rivalries. So, Josh and I here in Australia, we sort of get drip-fed reasons as to why we should dislike each other, right? Like, we don't live in North London, we don't live in London at all, so that whole rivalry is somewhat muted for us, but it does exist. So it is with begrudging respect that I'm viewing this Arteta revolution, the Arsenal revolution, with slight envy, to be honest, because you guys are playing the type of football that I would love to see at Spurs, with the types of players that I would like to see at Spurs, players that are playing for the badge, they're all in, they're committed, they seem to be getting behind the entire project. You've signed really specific, good footballers that seem to just play the way that supporters want to see their team play. And the board seems to have backed Arteta, even through, a bit of a rough patch when he first came in, results weren't amazing. So I suppose at first I sort of was snickering a little bit, like, okay, it's just another lull that Arsenal's going through after the Emery situation. But now it seems to have come good in this season. My personal opinion, we'll go into this in another video, is that I think you guys are going to win the Premier League. But, begrudging respect and admiration, I guess. That's where I am sort of at as a Spurs fan.
Yeah, alright, beautiful. So I'm going to bring up 4 points, 4 major assets of what I think has done this Arsenal or Arteta revolution. So 1 is going to be at board and ownership level, 2 is going to be at Arteta level, 3 player level, and then 4, which I think is the most impactful part of this whole revolution, is the documentary on Amazon Prime Video. Straight up.
Okay.
So
I'm interested. Tell me why.
Yeah. So 1 at the board level, so I think the right hires have been made. So Josh Kroenke sort of taking over as more of a hands-on role in London, boots on the ground, working closely with Edu. I think Edu's been a masterstroke as sporting director now. He was technical director for a while. And then Vinay, who's been there for quite a while now. I think he was there just at the end of Emery too. So that's been just a really good mix there. From Arteta, I think you touched on that rough period we went through. And I think that also translates back to the board, backing in their guy.
Yeah. Well, I was really unsure on him, but
Yeah, well, I was too, completely unproven manager. But I think you watch his passion and his energy and his love for the club, but also his love for the game, I think is just shining through, and that's then drip feeding down to the players. So you spoke about the right kind of players that we brought in, specific players who are of a sort of young, unproven age bracket, put them in the right system and get them playing the right kind of football.
yeah.
So that's sort of all 3 covered there. And then lastly, which I think has been the most impactful, is that documentary.
Tell me why. I'm interested.
Why? So I believe what it did was, before that, when you had Emery, when you had the end of Arsenal, a lot of people will know of Arsenal Fan TV, or AFTV, sorry, I should say, so they don't get in trouble. Sort of giving the club a bad name by always being negative. You could see the fans weren't on side. You could see players,
It was humorous. It was funny from
Yeah,
Spurs.
it was quite, and look, I actually bought into the bit of drama and had a bit of a laugh at it myself. But, you would never hear of ex-players coming back. You'd never hear of ex-players sort of speaking well of the club. One of the key things I think was Arsene Wenger, his first time back at the Emirates was a month ago. And that to me, like, for me, and this is going to be hilarious, and a lot of you people in England are going to laugh at me for it. When I first found Arsenal, hearing that Arsene Wenger was the manager, I actually thought Arsenal was named after Arsene Wenger.
Yeah, okay. Arsenal
Well,
Wenger.
literally, once again, because we're down in Australia, you've got to remember we have barely any news.
Yeah.
So we only get drip fed what we find out about the Premier League. So that was my little introduction. It was very quickly for me to decide that wasn't the way it was.
Yeah.
But to have those guys come back to the club, to involve the past players, to get the fans on side, like I think there's been 4, maybe 5 new songs made this year, all about players that are there. It's fantastic.
Do you see how much of a stylistic difference in the tactics have you seen between Emery and Arteta? Is it just night and day, the way that the team's set out? From the outside it does, but you tell me what you think.
Yes and no. So tactically, if you want to break them down, Arteta, people want to say he plays exactly like Pep does and exactly like Man City do. They don't. They don't. It's a bit of everything. So it's a bit of, go back to Arsenal in the early 2000s, there's a bit of that there. Sure, there's a bit of our Man City play with the high press, as soon as the ball's gone, we're straight onto them, playing out from the back. I think that was something Emery brought in. And just the transition-wise, he's got completely different players. He's got actual, and this is no knock on anyone because they're professional footballers, they get paid a lot of money, and they're obviously good at what they do, but they just weren't up to the standard of Arsenal.
Yeah.
They just weren't up to the standard.
They had a lot of trash, man. Like,
yeah.
You could see, I think there was a post on Instagram not long ago that I tagged you in, and it was a team from like 6 years ago or something.
Oh.
It was just diabolical, some of the players that they had.
Mustafi and Socrates.
And you just think, wow, like they've really cleared out the dead wood. And that's something that as a Spurs fan I'm kind of envious of because, you know, we're talking about Arsenal right now, but you always have to view it through your own club's lens, and the way that, you know, the Conte versus Arteta style, I would much rather watch an Arteta team play. You know, Paratici and then Edu. Paratici's made some good signings, but this Edu stuff, it really seems to be working. So, you know, there's a lot of respect there, and I can only speak for myself, again, being raised in a separate country, away from the Premier League, that I've always begrudgingly respected Arsenal. When I was young, it was just after the Invincibles, had a very good team, beautiful, they were the archetypal, beautiful game, like, you know, the beautiful football in England. And then they had their rough patch for about a decade, but they seem to be back. So, if anything, I would love to be competing for titles against Arsenal and hopefully beating us. But yeah, what do you think? What do you think about Edu? What do you think about? Is there any other guys that are around the club, like anyone in the 23s that are ex-players?
So Jack Wilshere, I think he's coaching their 18s,
okay. I
believe. So, look, it's just getting him back on board. He's obviously an Arsenal guy through and through. There's been murmurings of Santi Cazorla coming back.
Okay.
Which, look, you know, these are guys that have played for the club for years and they respected the badge. Those are the kind of guys that, really put in for the club and put in shifts every time they were out there. So, you know, I think it's great how we're going. I want to pump the brakes. I know you mentioned before about winning the title. Let's just pump the brakes on it. We're, 2 years into a 5-year plan. Top 4's the goal this year. Make sure we get there. If we can win a title, I'm not going to say no.
You're trying to be humble here. You're trying to be humble to push the brakes, but behind closed doors, this bloke's all about the Premier League title. He thinks they've run away with it already, but I think it's an interesting time to be watching the Premier League in general. You know, the Newcastle Renaissance, the Arteta revolution, Chelsea capitulating, Liverpool capitulating. It's an interesting time.
Well, it's beautiful, and hopefully this continues because, like you're just saying, the parity in the league is phenomenal. That's exactly what you want to see. Like, even you forgot to mention Brighton, who were up there, Fulham, who were coming back straight from coming up from the Championship.
Yeah.
It's, there's a lot of good sides out there, and there's a lot of good teams, and it's such a competitive league. It's what a time to be supporting it.
Yeah.
So, I don't know if you want to close that one off there?
Yeah, well, I personally am a begrudging admirer of the Arsenal revolution. But you guys out there listening to this and hopefully, getting around the Premier League and enjoying it as much as us, please let us know in the comments whether you are all for the Arsenal revolution, you're against it, you want them to win the Premier League, you don't. Let us know in the comments, please. Like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.